Susan Wright, the ultimate suburban woman.
She was always giving me cleaning tips.
Married to the ultimate suburban man.
He was the #1 salesman.
The Wrights were living the American dream.
Lots of people would describe him as a normal, healthy, happy relationship.
But this picket fence fairy tale had more than a few dirty little secrets.
He had hooked up with an ex-girlfriend, had three-way sex.
Secrets that would be unveiled with the discovery of a body in the backyard. The American dream becomes the ultimate American nightmare. Next on Snap. From the new carpeting in the living room to the freshly cut lawn out front, Susan Wright had made it. She was far from rich, but her tidy, middle-class suburban home looked like the ultimate expression of her childhood dreams.
Susan tried to be the perfect wife. All she ever wanted to be was a wife and a mother.
Born in 1976, Susan Weish grew up in a small town just outside of Houston, Texas. Quiet and shy in high school, Susan preferred quiet nights in to rowdy nights out.
Our family was great. In high school, I didn't play sports. I spent a lot of time at home, watching movies with my mom.
Susan might have been a homebody, but the pretty 18-year-old dreamed of one day spreading her wings.
She moved out of her house when she was pretty young, went to community college for a little bit, and worked in a hair salon.
But a degree in cosmetology wasn't exactly what Susan had in mind. She had bigger plans than that.
Susan wanted to go to school to be a nurse. That was what she wanted to do. She was trying to make money, go to school.
Between work, school, and bills, Susan had little time for a love life. But a beach trip to Galveston with some friends in 1997 would change that.
He drove up in his truck. He hit it off with my best friend's husband really well. I didn't talk to him at all, but when I got in my car to leave, I noticed that his business card was on the windshield. He seemed really nice, so I called him and asked him to dinner.
In spite of their 7-year age difference, Susan fell hard for gregarious 28-year-old Jeff Wright.
He was really charming. He was very sweet. He wanted to see me all the time. I thought he was too old for me, but as time went by, he was just so sweet and attentive, it didn't seem to matter.
That discrepancy of about 8 or 9 years is probably pretty common for girls who are teenagers or, around 20, because they seek a man who is more mature, and most men reach somewhat more maturity around the age of 28.
Jeff Wright was mature enough to realize that he'd found someone truly special.
He had told me that he had found a girl who was the one. This was the one he was going to marry. This was going to be the wife of his kids. He was ecstatic.
And Susan happened to step into the hard-living bachelor's life at just the right time.
When Jeff and I would party, anything went. I mean, drugs, alcohol, partying for days at a time, no sleep. It was just completely out of control.
Jeff said that Susan pretty much had saved his life, that she pretty much straightened his idea of where he wanted to be in life. He didn't want to be out running around drinking, partying. He wanted to be home. He wanted to have a family.
And he didn't have to wait long. Several months after they started dating, Susan dropped a bombshell.
I think that when he found out that she was pregnant, that he wanted to do the right thing and that he loved her. I don't think that he was necessarily ready at that point to be a father, but those things, they come along, and he grew into that situation, I think, quite well.
He'd have to get ready in a hurry. By the time he'd made his proposal in October of 1998, Susan was more than just a little pregnant.
I was 8 months pregnant with my son, and we were in the truck, and he handed me the ring and said, "Will you marry me?" So I said yes.
It was Texas-style romance. 2 weeks later, Susan said yes again, this time at a private wedding ceremony held outside of Houston. The blushing bride and proud groom commemorated the event with a big steak dinner.
Their wedding night was spent at the Outback Steakhouse. I think that it's probably not what either of them had envisioned it would be.
Maybe not, but the Wrights couldn't have been happier.
I think they did look adoringly, both to each other. They hugged, they were affectionate, they held hands. I thought it was a very good relationship.
Following the birth of their son Bradley in November, the young couple bought a fixer-upper in a suburb of northwest Houston. With Jeff's job selling flooring, the time seemed right to settle in.
Berry Tree is a neighborhood made up of homes that were built in the 80s, not big homes, 12, 13, 1,400 square feet.
Susan quickly turned the track house into a real home.
The house was a typical middle-class, all-American house. Clean, pretty neat. Kids' toys around, pictures on the fridge, all that.
In 2001, the Wrights' little house got a whole lot cozier following the birth of their second child, a beautiful baby girl named Kaylee.
Jeff was so proud of his wife and kids, especially after Kaylee was born.
With Jeff out pushing laminated hardwood flooring and linoleum tiles, Susan did her best to keep the home fires burning.
They were more of a traditional family. He was the one who went out and worked. She stayed home to take care of the house and the kids and had dinner on the table when he came home.
Women in our society, like Susan, are indoctrinated into this whole sense of perfection. They want to see themselves as this sort of Madonna character, the perfect mom, the perfect wife. And it was very important for her to be that good girl that society and her family expected of her.
If that perfection took a toll on Susan, neither her friends nor neighbors could see it.
She was always giving me cleaning tips and cooking tips and how to get the baseboards clean and how to whip up this great 3-course meal in 20 minutes. I would react like I've got 2 small kids. It's not happening in my world. And she managed to do it all.
By 1999, the Wrights had notched out a nice life for themselves.
I think they were doing pretty good. I wouldn't say that they were rich. Jeff had a pretty decent truck. Susan had a nice car.
There was even talk of building a new house for their growing family.
He was making good money and, in fact, was planning on building a new house and, at the time, shopping for a new car for his wife.
Just shy of their 5-year anniversary, the young couple looked to be on the verge of moving up in the world. But before they could break ground on a new house, an investigation would have cops doing a little digging of their own in the Wrights' backyard. By 2002, Susan and Jeff Wright had been married for over 4 years. They had 2 beautiful children, a nice house in the burbs, and a growing bank account. To friends and family, the Wrights seemed to have it all.
Everyone described it as Leave It to Beaver. And that's how I worked really hard to make things look that everything was perfect.
But that all changed on the morning of January 15th, 2003, when Susan Wright walked into the Domestic Violence Division of the Harris County Police Department. Accompanied by her mother, Susan claimed that Jeff had been abusing both her and drugs for years. But things had come to a head 2 days earlier when she finally confronted him about his problem.
I told him I loved him, but that he needed to get help. And I would stand by it if he got help. But if not, that I was going to leave.
Susan said that he got mad. He ran up to her and grabbed her by the wrist and shoved her to the wall, screaming at her and just violently shaking her and slammed her to the wall the entire time they left the house.
And Jeff hadn't been seen since. Unable to locate Jeff and concerned for Susan's welfare, Deputy Hall rushed an arrest warrant through the Harris County District Attorney's Office.
Susan appeared to be a victim of domestic violence. That's what I perceived at the time. She was very tearful, crying a lot, acted extremely afraid of Jeff returning home.
As police began their search for Jeff Wright, friends and family grew increasingly anxious about his whereabouts.
Call his cell phone and it would go directly to voicemail. I thought that was very unusual because Jeff liked his child. We were concerned at this point in time that Jeff may have been in trouble.
But what bothered me is, A, he didn't call on our anniversary, which he was attentive to dates, and his truck was still in the driveway.
On January 18th, just 3 days after Susan filed her complaint, attorney Neil Davis arrived at the sheriff's office. He told them he had a new client and that he knew where to find Jeff Wright.
I gave a very limited amount of information, just explaining that there was a body at a certain location, that I was not personally involved in any way, and to give them my business card.
Following up on attorney Neil Davis's lead, police descended on the Wrights' house on Berry Tree Drive. Neighbors watched in disbelief.
I was watching TV, and there was a police officer that showed up in front of Jeff's house, and the police officer informed us that there might be a dead person in there. I was amazed.
Entering the Wrights' home, one room in particular caught the cops' attention: the master bedroom.
The bed was partially disassembled. Mattress and box springs had been taken out of the room. The carpet where the bed had been located was partially cut out. One of the walls above where the bed had been freshly painted.
But police made an even more gruesome discovery just outside the Wrights' bedroom door.
There's a small area, a couple feet wide, towards the front of the residence. It was just dirt, and that's where his body ultimately was discovered. Face down, mostly buried, the back of the head, the left shoulder, the left arm was exposed.
It was face down in the dirt. Once the entire back side of the body had been exposed, I had seen 2 injuries, clearly stab wounds.
As for their chief suspect, well, it didn't take long for the cops to whittle down the list.
Women, when they commit spousal murder, tend to use a knife. They are 3 to 4 times more likely to use a knife than a man would.
We figured the defendant was going to be Susan Wright because she was the only other grown-up living there.
But attorney Neil Davis was making it very tough for the cops to get to his new client, Susan Wright. He claimed she was in a psychiatric hospital and unable to be questioned.
They played this game for a whole week of telling me every day, Kelly, we'll give you a statement, we'll give you a statement. It's all about self-defense.
The prosecution felt the crime scene told a different story. On January 23rd of 2003, they stopped waiting for a statement. They charged Susan with the murder of her husband and told her attorney to bring her in. But she didn't spend long in jail.
She spent the weekend in jail, and then she made her bond that following Monday.
Maintaining Susan's freedom was now in the hands of her smooth-talking attorney, Neil Davis. But what Davis didn't know was that a dirty little secret from his sweet-faced client's past was about to come back to haunt them both. Susan Wright, devoted mother and housewife, faced a prison term of up to 99 years if convicted for the murder of her husband. Susan didn't deny stabbing her husband to death, but she claimed it was an act of self-defense. Before her trial even began, her attorney started laying the groundwork for her defense, which mostly involved Jeff Wright's character.
Susan's attorneys very much sort of felt that the court of public opinion would be very important, and they immediately began to portray her husband as this abusive, drug-crazed, misogynist.
But as the trial got underway in February 2004, It was clear that slamming Jeff's character wasn't going to be enough. In their opening arguments, the prosecution laid out a damning list of physical evidence. To begin, they claimed that Jeff hadn't just been stabbed a couple of times. He'd been stabbed a lot. Like 193 times.
People were shocked. They couldn't imagine that such a pretty young thing stabbing her husband 193 times.
Women kill for a number of different reasons, and one of them is revenge. And I think stabbing somebody 193 times is what we call overkill. It means that you're not just killing, you're not just stabbing somebody to kill them, you're stabbing them to show them that you are angry.
But it wasn't just the number of wounds that called Susan's self-defense plea into question. It was also the manner in which they had been delivered. According to the medical examiner, the marks around Jeff's wrists and ankles indicated that he wasn't attacking Susan when he was stabbed. He was lying on his back, tied to the bed.
Mr. Wright was tied down and stabbed to death. He had ligatures on his arms, his legs, and of all of his 193 plus stab wounds, only 2 of those were on the back, which again suggests that he was tied down and incapacitated while the injuries were being inflicted.
But according to the defense, the number of wounds indicated that Susan was delusional from years of abuse.
They had to use the battered wife defense to get to that many stab wounds. They had to set up a scenario to justify being in fear for her life, to justify having a knife in her hand and stabbing Jeffrey that many times.
The defense also claimed the marks on Jeff's wrists were caused by Susan tying his hands to drag his 250-pound body to the hole in the backyard.
She was clearly out of her mind, and she was delusional. And she thought he was alive. She stabbed him, threw him in the hole, thought he was still alive, so she began cleaning everything up manically, thinking that he was going to beat her if he didn't clean the house.
And the defense argued they had the evidence to back up their claim.
Jeff did have a prior charge. He had been charged before in Austin, I believe it was, for a simple assault. It was with a girlfriend at the time.
Lead prosecutor Kelly Siegler painted a different scenario. If Susan had been a longtime victim of abuse, she argued, why had she waited until the morning of January 15th to report it? 2 days after she had killed Jeff.
We could find no documentation where Susan had ever made any reports to the police about any kind of physical abuse in the family.
But the defense maintained that such instances weren't uncommon.
If they go to the hospital and a doctor sees an abused woman, the woman is going to be fearful that the doctor will contact authorities, and that's going to lead to more abuse.
True, but the prosecutors reminded the jury that this case centered on the issue of self-defense, and the facts surrounding the crime seemed to indicate something else. Premeditated murder. The prosecution contended that Susan Wright had lured her husband to bed that evening using the best weapon she had in her arsenal, her body.
Around 9 o'clock, she brought Jeff into the bedroom, lit the candles, undressed herself, undressed Jeff, began to make love to him. She tied him up with his neckties, as tight as she could possibly tie him. She pulled the knife out and started to stab him.
And the prosecution brought out the Wrights' actual bed to illustrate their point.
Are these the pieces recovered from the scene on Mary Tree Road?
Yes, ma'am. Certainly the most sensational moment is when Kelly Siegler straddled her assistant district attorney to demonstrate how this could have happened.
Susan denied the state's assertion.
That wasn't in our relationship at all. I think it's disgusting.
She just acted so so offended that, how dare I suggest that she would basically do anything besides regular, boring, missionary sex. And it's like, come on, lady, you got handcuffs in the drawer.
To back up their claim that there was more to Miss Prim and Proper than meets the eye, the prosecution revealed a juicy chapter from Susan's past. One that suggested this innocent housewife wasn't quite so innocent.
Susan worked as a dancer at a gentleman's club for 8 weeks on Saturdays.
Susan naturally downplayed it.
When I was 18, right outside of high school, I wanted to make money to go away to college. I danced for 2 months and I didn't like it, so I quit.
Many young women that I talk to in my practice, if they come from a very religious background, many of them have views of sex that sexuality is very bad or negative. And in rebellion of that, they go out and they look for ways to express their sexuality. Could possibly be through prostitution, but also through topless dancing or just exploring their bodies in ways that would be very much the opposite of how they grew up.
Whatever Susan's reasons for taking it all off, the prosecution seemed to have scored a point with the revelation.
I think it helped the prosecution, the fact that she had been a topless dancer, because she would often act prude, and Kelly would say things like, "You danced naked for men."
But all of the prosecution's arguments begged one big question. If Susan didn't kill her husband in self-defense, then why did she kill him? The answer was a bigger surprise than the stripping, and revealed that Susan had more than one reason to want her husband dead.
Susan had called Jeff, and they began discussing an insurance policy that Jeff had with our company. Jeff said, "Don't worry, honey, if I die, you're going to be a very rich woman."
Rich might have been an overstatement, but Susan did stand to inherit $200,000 upon Jeff's death. It was enough money, prosecutors contended, for Susan to start a new life for herself.
Thank you. Please be seated.
On March 3rd, the trial drew to a close. When the jury retired on March 4th, it took them only 5 hours to reach a verdict. They found Susan Wright guilty of second-degree murder for the death of her husband.
I believe the jury, based on what they sentenced Ms. Wright to, obviously believed that there was some validity to what she was saying. Now, there's an old saying at the courthouse, you play the cards you're dealt. The prosecution was dealt the better hand.
After her conviction, Susan was sentenced to 25 years at the William P. Hobby Correctional Facility.
Many women in our society, like Susan, are brought up to be perfect, to be good homemakers, to be kind, to be gentle, and to seemingly have this perfect life. She wanted to see her life as perfect, as everything in its place. And what she finds out later on in her marriage is it's not coming true for her.